Hello and welcome to the January vlog. Hello everyone, welcome back to A Fictional Escapist. My name is Kris and today's video is going to be the January vlog. So I'm going to do vlogs a little bit differently, at least for the first quarter of this year, and see how it works. In the past I was just picking like a 10-day period throughout the month and just bringing you on that journey, whatever I was reading and writing throughout that time period. And sometimes that'd be one book, sometimes that'd be like half an audio book and like a physical book. It was quite inconsistent. So what I'm hoping to do this month and then moving forward, we'll see how it works, is to just pick 2 to 3 full books, and I'll take you on the journey no matter how long that takes. I will try to be conscious of like not saying the date either, just know that it's sometime in the month that the vlog comes out or in the previous month. So for this one, I'm going to pick 2 books with a potential caveat, but I will also let you know other stuff that I've got going on in the background, because this is where I'm going to be doing writing updates for the most part. It's going to be the vlogs, just because that's part of my life on those given days. So for this particular vlog, I'm going to be focusing on 2 books. The first is A Day of Breadth by Darby. This is a NetGalley e-arc, and I believe it is being released by Angry Robot Books in early February. The blurb for this one says, "In a day of breath, the fate of the world rests on a single brutal day. Ollie is Niowa's longest-serving champion, a warrior given magical strength. She stands alone at the edge, protecting the kingdom from demonic hordes that emerge from a rift between the realms. But her powers are fading. She has to find a way to get them back, and fast. An answer comes when heir Fallon, distraught when he is not chosen to be the next ruler of Niowa, attempts to change his fate by convincing Ollie to leave the edge for the first time in 10 years for the Day of Breath. It's the one day a year demons can't breach the rift, and Fallon's invitation is a chance for Ollie to beg for her strength to be renewed. But reuniting with family and regaining her strength is interrupted when parasitic demons spread through the kingdom. On the one day it should be impossible. As Ollie grows weaker and Fallon struggles to take the throne, they have until midnight to find a way to stop the carnage before the rift awakes again." Sounds pretty cool. This cover is absolutely beautiful. My experience with NetGalley arcs so far has been everything has been a consistently 3-star read for me. That is, I've done 6 so far, so I'm not like well versed in NetGalley, but I tend to pick ones that sit just slightly higher than middle of the road. And having a look at the ratings on this one so far, we're looking at like a 3.64 the last time I checked, but there's not that many ratings, so of course subjective. I'm hoping to enjoy this one. It's about 358 pages, so I'm relatively confident that I can get this done quite soon, but it does release on the 10th of February, so I need to get it done prior to that. The second one that I'll be reading is going to be The Iron Widow. I've heard mixed things about this one. My housemate really liked it, and she just like anything sapphic, so this is one that I'm reading for the ByPlus book club, and they are meeting on the 5th of February, so both of these I need to get done relatively soon. The boys of Huaxia dream of pairing up with girls to pilot chrysalises, giant transforming robots that battle aliens beyond the Great Wall. It doesn't matter that their female co-pilots are expected to serve as concubines and often die from the mental strain. When 18-year-old Satan offers herself up as a concubine pilot, her plan is to assassinate the ace male pilot responsible for her sister's death. But after miraculously surviving her first battle, Satan sets her sights on a mightier goal. The time has come to stop more girls from being sacrificed. It sounds cool, and like I want to like it, but I had someone comment that I hope you like this more than I do, and our tastes tend to align, so we'll see. We will see how this goes. This one is physical. It's about 400 pages, so again, it's a relatively decent size for a fantasy. My third caveat, which I'm not sure if I'll put in here, we'll see how we go, is I've just agreed to be on Olivia J. Elliott's podcast. Again, this will be my second time on the podcast, and they will be discussing Dune. I believe there'll be a discussion for all the books in the series. I think I read this series, Books with Brittany got me into it many years ago, before I was even on BookTube. I was a big fan of hers and watching her for a couple of years before I joined, and I read this whenever that was. I think my grandfather was still alive, so that would have been a good 5 years ago, and he was quite ill at the time, and I remember telling my dad, because we're going to read this together, maybe don't, because of some of the father stuff in here. I've got like a little bits marked and passages. So if I can, that podcast is being recorded on the 29th of January. I would like to reread it just to refresh my memory, which throws a spanner into the works for my TBR. But I would like to have something intelligent to say when that conversation comes around, so that will also be a priority. I also have two beta reads that are happening this month. They came into the inbox a couple of days ago. One is a 36,000 sci-fi novella, hard sci-fi, which should be interesting. That will probably take my brain a little bit of time. And the other one is a epic fantasy, which is more my bread and butter. So those two need to be done before the end of January as well. But anyway, we'll see how we go with this vlog. I don't have too much else on my plate at the moment. The Aurealis reading, the magazine, the Australian sci-fi and fantasy magazine that I read for, should start up in February. So those beta reads should be done before that time frame. But anyway, I'll catch you in the next update. I will probably check in at like 25, 50, 75, and then finishing the books and final thoughts wherever we're at with those. So I will see you then. G'day everyone. I'm already running late for work, but work isn't life and books are, so I'm going to give you an update. I am 32% of the way through Day of Breath. It is so many days later. I forgot how the commute fucked me. In times of just having time to read or whatever. Also trying to be conscious of writing every day, which is really my priority at the moment. But anyway, I digress. We are reading Day of Breath by Darby Cox. Cover up here. And I'm 32% of the way through. This is proving to be probably my favourite NetGalley e-arc that I've read thus far. Very simple premise, but executed quite well, in my opinion. So we're following Ollie, who at 16 has been sent to the Rive to be the champion for Niawa, I think is the town's name. And they basically give one person the blessing to strengthen them. She was 16 at the time. She didn't want to go. We get this very quickly, we get this idea of her being quite anxious and being like, I'm not the strongest. Why are we sending me to be the champion to save literally everyone from any demon coming through this Rive? So the idea of the champion is that they go to this secluded cabin out near this rift of some sort where demons come through, and it's their job to protect the entire town from all of these demons. They don't have any help. They are just given this blessing and be like, off you go, toots. Go and save the town. We'll catch you one day a year when this Rive closes and you can come back to town. She's like, fuck no. Am I going back to town because you've sentenced me to death? Anyway, chapter 2 starts with her being like the longest standing champion. So she's now 26. It's been 10 years. And we're starting to see that some of that blessing has started to not be so blessed. You know what I mean? Like, she's getting more injuries and whatnot. And she's like, well, maybe I will go back just this 1 year to see if I can get another blessing so I can, keep doing this. And the champions before her have, like, unalived themselves because of the pressure. And on the other side of town, in Niawa, we have Fallon, who is not the heir to the throne, but sort of competing with their sibling to be heir to the throne. And he's like, you know what will really win me the people's favor is to go and get Ollie, the champion, which no one has seen for 10 years, to come back. And she's like, mate, I don't really want to, but anyway. So now we're at the point about 30% of the way in where she's like, I probably do need to get that blessing though, because otherwise I'm not going to make it out here. Fallon so far seems to be a little bit of an idiot, but I don't hate him for that, which is something. Yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on it. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it so far. The writing is really easy to get into. Reading super fast when I do get a chance to pick it up. I'm hoping to knock out a good 50% of it over the weekend to give you some more thoughts, and then I'll do like a final update at the end. That is pretty much it for the books I was going to read on this vlog. Very quickly, I don't know if I'll finish it in this vlog, but I did get to 25% of Sephiroth's Hand by Melissa McPhail on audio, and that is quite a long audiobook. This is very epic in scope, and I probably couldn't give you a whole bunch of what's happening now at 25% because I feel like we're very much still building up to what the actual storyline is. We're doing a lot of character things. I like some of the characters in here. It does feel very sort of Eye of the World, Robert Jordan, if you're into that sort of like epic, big world building, big storytelling. I really like Troll of the Tides, who probably has one of my favorite fantasy tropes, where it's like the amnesia trope, but they are an adult and they're like, well, I want to figure out who the fuck I was, so I'm going to go back and do that. And he's going on that journey. I also like travel and like questy fantasy personally. I know it's not everyone's like go-to, but because I like world building, I find that often in fantasy where we're doing a lot of traveling, we're seeing the world and we're experiencing the world. So I tend to like that sort of thing. And he's doing that, and we're meeting people along the way, and that's expanding the world, which is fun. We've got a Prince Ian who has had some form of attack on him, and we sort of learn a little bit that that attack might not have been as random as we thought it was, and there's some political machinations building up there. We have, oh, what is her name? The healer. She's pretty cool in the Ian storyline. Elaniri. I really like the magic system. We've got the LA, we've got five strands of LA, and we're learning a little bit about that with a young coming of age storyline, and I've forgotten his name. But I'm enjoying it for how much I can't recall right now. Anyway, I am late, so I should go to work, but I thought I would film an update because I haven't done one this entire week yet. So, and it's Friday. Anyway, thank God it's Friday. I'm gonna work. Hello team, welcome to the weirdest position I've ever filmed a clip in. I'm on a camping chair that's very low to the ground. It is Ari's chair, however, everyone is asleep inside and the sun is like blaring out here, so we are left with this chair and this corner of the outside house. Now it is windy, so I don't know whether this little mic is going to actually make it better or worse for the wind out here, but we'll see how it goes. I'm just going to give a quick update on The Day of Breath by Darby. I'll put it up here. I'm 76% of the way through and I'm enjoying this one quite a bit. Now, my personal taste in reading is I would like more pages in here. I think this book comes out to 267 pages on the NetGalley e-arc. I'm not sure what that translates to into like Bookworld. I think it's like 320 or something on Amazon, like the book information. I'm not sure. Anyway, I would like 100 more pages of this book just to really sort of build up some of the elements that we're getting here. So the last time that we checked in, Ollie was going, all right, cool, I'm heading off to the Day of Breath. I've actually decided I'm going to go and do that, which is like this celebration once per year where there's, I don't know whether it's the sun in Niawa, like closes the Rive, which is the portal thing that Ollie has to watch to make sure that no demons get through and go into the town. But on this one day per year, she basically gets a day of rest, and there's a big celebration in the town for the champion, which is what they call her. So she's decided that she's going back into, I'm going to try and not give spoilers away here. She gets in there and it just turns to shit. It turns out that there's not only demons coming from the Rive, there's actually demons coming from other places as well. So we're sort of in the midst of all of it right now. That's all I can give away, and even that sort of slightly spoilery, but without going too deep into it. What I will say is something that I super appreciate in this book is the dealings with our main character Ollie's neurodivergence, and it's not explicitly stated anywhere that that's a thing, but there are definitely things in this book which made me feel seen, which I wasn't expecting at all. There was a particular scene with a green bowl where she broke this bowl, this source of comfort for her, and I know to like neurotypical people that sounds insane, and like I hear it, and when I was reading this scene where she'd broken this bowl and she was like, okay, I'm going to go and get another one because I'm going to the place where they had those, and then she goes to the place where they had those and they don't have them anymore, and just the amount of anxiety and anger that brought on, and I was like, huh, interesting, maybe it is worth going down the diagnosis route. And like that scene is going to mean so much to so many people, like in my circles, if they ever pick up this book, that, and like I know it sounds insane, but I have comfort mugs like it's just like a particular feel, it's a particular way that they're made, and like I will not drink unless that mug is like clean some days, not every day, but yeah, some days just like that's the only thing that I will use as a vessel to drink a beverage out of, and it's stupid, like I understand it's stupid, but anyway, that's how that works. Anyway, so this scene just made me go, right, been there, sis. Anyway, it was nice. I think some of the things in this book are being rushed. And again, that could just be like a reader preference. I like to have my things sort of a little bit more slow burn. It is quite action heavy. The revelations that we're getting through the book, again, I'm trying to be vague and not give spoilers away. I wish we had a little bit more build up to it, and it's not that I'm not enjoying the book at all. I think this will probably end at about a 3.5 star range, so NetGalley hasn't quite broken the 4 stars for me yet when I get the arcs, but that's okay. I'm still enjoying this one a fair bit. I would consider continuing the series if I were able to get another like NetGalley e-arc for a book 2 or find it in a library or something like that. But there's a lot of things happening right now. Now, some of them I've predicted throughout the way through. I would say the storyline is relatively predictable if you're well read in like fantasy, just because it follows along certain tropes. Not, again, to say it's not enjoyable. It's just, it's a comforting read because we sort of know the formula of what's going to happen here. There's been a couple of times where I think the author has tried to like throw a curveball in there, and it's like, oh, okay, we're doing this now, but then you're able to, well, I have been able to go, this is now where the story is going. So that's been interesting as well. Excuse me. But yeah, look, that's the update for Day of Breath. I do have some book mail, which I will open. I kind of forgot this was coming until money came out of my account, and I was like, who took that from me? And I realized it was myself. This is a series which I don't know when I'm going to actually start, but I have the 3rd book now, and I think when I do this series, I will also do... Is it Tasha Shuri who does the Jasmine Throne? But I'll probably do these together. And this is... I was so confident that this is what it is, and if it's not, joke's on me. And this is The Sovereign by C.L. Clarke. The slide's not going to do this justice. Beautiful cover. They've all got really beautiful covers. And I'm very much looking forward to reading this series, but I think I will do it with the Tasha Shuri series as well. That schlurping is Valerie, who is very close next to me. Got a bit of a busy day today. I don't know if I'll take you with us, but Sunday generally is the only day that Rachel and I can do things together, so we've started collecting like physical CDs again. I don't know, we just sort of got over everything being digital. Maybe it's arbitrary, maybe it'll be irrelevant in 10 years time, but hey, we had a good time together. And she's been really eyeing off this secondhand CD store, which is like ages away from us. So I'm going to take her there. We're going to go get a bakery breakfast, I think, before we head off. Then we're going to go look at some CDs, and that will be a little bit of a date this morning. So we're going to do that. And then I'll come back and read. I've got a beta read that I need to start because I also need to finish that before the end of January. So we'll do a bit of that. Hello team, it is Monday and I have finished Day of Breath by Darby Cox, and I've written my review for NetGalley, so that is now up. I ended up enjoying this one quite a bit. I flew through in the last like 60 pages, so I read most of that this morning, and it really picked up with the horror elements, I will say, towards the end here. So even though like I stand by, I sort of knew where it was going throughout the whole thing, we do get more of that horror, that fast-paced horror element through the last half of the book, and I really like the development between Ollie and Fallon's relationship. I think it was adorable as somebody who is very much suspected of being neurodivergent, and some of the ways that Fallon's character really supported Ollie's character through what she needed were just super heartwarming to me personally, and I really liked that dynamic. And I love that the author just did a really good job of showing the ways in which people can react to others with neurodivergent needs, both negatively and positively, and they felt super authentic. So I really, really loved that aspect of the book. I think I am going to end around a 3.5 with this one. There were certainly scenes and like characters that I would have preferred to have been played out a little bit more personally. Now, that I think I mentioned it before, could be a reader specific thing because I do like slow burn personally. And or I like to read slow burn, not so much write it, but when there are character moments or there was even action moments where I felt like the emotion could have been built up a little bit more or the backstory could have been built up a little bit more to have those moments be more impactful. I think there was a few missed opportunities there personally for my own tastes. Also a little bit of repetition throughout, which I know is a me thing as well. I don't necessarily love repetition, and I mean that in like the way that some of the thematics were discussed, not so much the neurodivergence, but like there were similar sentences between certain characters or similar words that were used, which grates on my nerves personally. Again, it's a me thing as a reader. It depends on what type of reader you are, which I felt like could have been cut a little bit. So it was an interesting case of there were some scenes which I felt could have been built up more, and other scenes which could have used a little bit more trimming down. But all that to say, I really quite enjoyed it. I think if you are squeamish, be careful about going into the last like 40% of this because it ups the body horror. So we have a lot of demons, we have some sort of religious underpinnings as well, so thematically if you don't love that sort of thing, potentially that might deter you. But we sort of get this idea that it's not just the Rive, it's not just this thing that is sending demons through. There are people behind what is going on here, which I thought the development of that storyline was quite interesting. But I had a good time. If it has a series continuation, I would probably be interested in getting a sequel if it comes out on NetGalley or something like that. But yeah, I had a good time with it. So that means I'm now on to Iron Widow by Xiran Jay Zhao. And look, it sounds good. It sounds like it should be up my alley. I think this is targeted to a younger audience, though. Don't quote me on that. I want to say this is probably more new adult than it is adult, but we'll see how we go. The premise sounds really cool. Like, I've read the blurb a couple of times. It sounds like it should be up my alley, but we'll see how we go. I have had Faye say that she hopes I like it more than her, and Faye and my tastes are pretty well aligned, so we'll see how it goes. But yes, I'll be reading this and then I'll give you an update when I hit the 25% mark. Hopefully it's deceptively, oh no, it's not super long, it's about 400 pages. So hopefully I can get this done in about a week's time. I do have a beta read that I need to crack on with, but I also do need to read Dune. So what I think I'll do this week is I'll really focus on reading Iron Widow and smashing that out, and then doing the beta read and Dune simultaneously, because I've read Dune before. I'm just doing a bit of a refresher for a podcast conversation with Olivia J. Elliott. So I just want to refresh some of those themes in my mind because it is quite a thematic book. And I want to be prepared to not sound like an idiot, you know? Anyway, yesterday I didn't take any footage of Rachel and I going shopping, but we did go to a few CD stores, well, a few record stores, and they had CDs there. She bought a bunch of things she's excited about. I bought a couple of things, and then I tripped and fell into a bookstore where I picked up some horror written by trans authors. So, yeah, I thought I would show you that. So anyway, CDs, look, whatever, you may not care, that's fine. I bought the latest Bring Me the Horizon CD because I enjoy their newer music more so than the screamy stuff, but that is me. What's funny about Bring Me the Horizon is Rachel introduced me to them, and she likes the heavier, more screamy stuff, and I like to be able to understand what I'm listening to. I don't mind some heavier stuff as long as I can understand what the lyrics are. I don't like just screaming for screaming's sake, and she likes their older stuff, which is, you know, heavier. I like them basically from the moment when she started to go, yeah, they're okay, but so we'll have all the CDs in the house at some point, but she will have all the early shit, and then I'll have everything from like That's the Spirit onwards. And That's the Spirit's still like a little bit heavy for me, but that's the album she introduced me to. So anyway, you don't care. And then I picked up No Doubt, I'm Old, shut up, the singles, because I had this when I was much, much younger. These are the singles from 1992 to 2003, so that is aging myself a little bit. And okay, look, my tastes are basically angsty pop punk or girly pop. That's it. Those are the tastes. So I picked up Rihanna, the Rockstar album. I loved Rihanna back in the day, and this is probably the last album that I really loved. I was trying to find Disturbia, however, that is one we ended up with. And then we went to the bookstore and I picked up Moonflow by Bitter Corella. Look at that cover. I'm not going to lie. The cover's like, hello, yes. And then I read the blurb, and it says, I see something out there in the woods. It does not have a face. They call it King's Breakfast. One bite, and you can understand the full scope of the universe. One bite, and you can commune with forgotten gods beyond human comprehension. Sarah is a trans woman who makes her living growing mushrooms. When a bad harvest leaves her in a desperate fix, the lure of the King's Breakfast has her journeying into the vast uncharted woods where it grows. But as she descends deeper, she realizes she's not alone. Something in the forest is waking up, it's hungry, and it wants her. Yeah, I'm in. This cover, that blurb. So Bitter Corella on their website says that they are a gender fluid transvestite goblin. And I was like, yes, say less. I'm in. And then I picked up one that's sort of making the rounds at the moment. This is You Weren't Meant to Be Human by Andrew Joseph White. Now, I didn't know about picking this one up just because I am a trans man, and this is dealing with a pregnant trans man and pregnancy, which would be horrific in itself just from a dysphoria standpoint. So I'm curious about it because it is getting some praise. I know it's not for everyone, but I will have to be in a pretty good headspace before I pick that one up. So I picked those two up. We are trying to do better at supporting trans authors, and yeah, I thought that would be fun to share. So onto the Iron Widow. I will check back in when I have something to say about it. Hello everyone, I'm not sure what day it is, Thursday, question mark? Anyway, I've read about 110 pages of The Iron Widow by Xiran Jay Zhao, and I'm liking it so far. And I am liking it more than I expected to, and I'm liking it despite qualms that I would normally have with everything that's inside this book. And I don't mean qualms about subject matter. I think the subject is very dark, and the premise is it's dark, and it's necessary, the conversations that we're having in this book. But what I mean by that is, like, some of the writing is disjointed. The character we're following, Shay Tian, and I probably pronounced that incorrectly, that we follow from the beginning of the book, is so wishy-washy with thought patterns. And I think that is actually the writing as opposed to the character that we're following, and that would normally bug me, but I can sort of see past it because I really like the themes, and I also really like the play on concepts that we have in this book. So the Iron Widow, at least for the first 100 pages, I'll just sort of give you my experience thus far, is that we're following this young girl/woman, I think she's 18, who has essentially been sold to be a pilot concubine. Now that means that they go into these big robots with powerful men who turn into robots. It's kind of Transformer-y, Pacific Rim-y, and they are fighting the who dance, something along those lines, in this epic war. And the men who power these robots can't do it without essentially stealing the power from these young women, or these pilot concubines. This young woman wants to get vengeance for her sister who was killed. Now, the women that they use in these big robot things are usually a lot weaker than the men, and they sacrifice their lives. So when they sign up or they're sold to this program, it's an immediate sacrifice of their life. So her sister, when she was sold, her parents knew that she was going to die in this war that they're fighting, which is just awful. Like, the parents in this are so awful. Families, but this is also just an exploration of things that I've learnt about when I did Asian studies from ancient Chinese culture and the way that women were treated. So, and I think sometimes when I read these books, which have very loose connections to Chinese studies, because I've studied it for so long, and I studied Mandarin for 8 years, I can connect a lot more to some of the playing with historical themes, which, you know, I can see why this would annoy some people, but for me, I can make, you know, it doesn't annoy me as much. Anyway, so she enlists to be this pilot's concubine, and when she goes in, she realizes that she's actually a lot more powerful than a lot of the other girls there, and she doesn't really expect, she knows she's going in to die, like, she's pretty much accepted that that is her fate, and the thing she wants to do and wants to achieve is to kill the person who kills her brother. when she ends up surviving her first fight, which she does not expect to do, things get a little bit more interesting. So basically, that is part one, and it's also on the blurb, so I'm not giving too much spoilers away here. When we go into part two, she realizes that she is more powerful, and she starts to think, hang on a minute, maybe I don't just avenge my sister, maybe I avenge all women that this has been done to, and maybe I stop this from happening to any other woman. And that is now the motivation. Again, on the blurb, I'm not giving too much away here. And although there are certain parts of this which, yeah, I can absolutely see not working for people, I think I mentioned it earlier, but just like the wishy-washiness of some of it, I'm forgiving a lot of that because the themes and the concept are very cool, and I'm taking more out of it than I thought that I would. So it's been an interesting experience so far. Also, like, incredibly bingeable. I do not have a lot of time to read right now, in between working, trying to make sure I'm writing every day, trying to make sure I'm doing beta reads. I've got like quite a big one to try and get done before the end of the month. I need to start reading Dune because I have a conversation about that in 2 weeks' time, and it's probably going to take me about 2 weeks to read. But every time I pick this up, I don't want to put it down. So even though I only get like 20 minutes a day to read it, I'm struggling to like put it down. So we'll see how this goes. I'm hoping to have it finished by the end of Monday, which is my weekend, and then smash out some Dune, or at least get enough read of Dune that I'm more educated going into this conversation that I'm having. So there are some quick thoughts. I will maybe check in with you at part, I would say, I don't know how many parts there are, but maybe when I hit like the last 100 pages or so, just because I'm reading it quite fast whenever I pick it up. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's okay so far. Hello team, we've gotten to part 3 of Iron Widow, and I am still enjoying it for the most part. Like, I don't really have a lot more to say. The relationship between Min, whatever his name is, and our main character, like, it's so complicated, and we've added in another player to the mix. I won't say names because I don't really want to give spoilers away, but like, I'm enjoying the concepts of the book, but the way that it's written is sort of giving me whiplash. Like, the similar to what I said with part one, our main character that we're following, what's her name, Zaytan, is like, she says one thing and then does another, or she says one thing and then she does that thing, but then she says another thing and then does that thing like 3 pages later. She's so angry, but at the same time, I get it. Like, if I was in that situation, I would also just be severely fucked off and super hypercritical of anything the patriarchy was doing. So it's a real interesting one. And I've purposefully not gone and read reviews of this one because I wanted to go into it pretty like blind, because it wasn't on my radar as something that I would enjoy reading. But like, I'm still finding it really easy to read. I think that the mix match of like sci-fi and fantasy elements is really cool in here. There's some quite unique ideas that I've not seen done before in terms of that like sort of genre mashup. But it's it's interesting. It was funny because there was a sentence that, like, she goes into a bathhouse, she meets another woman who's in there, and the woman has kids, and she tells the kid to go and say, hello to Big Sister, this other character. And the line was in Pinyin, and I learnt Mandarin for a while, so I knew what the words were in Pinyin, which was funny. It was Wu Jie Jie Hao, which is just you good big sister, with a question mark, and it was just, I don't know, it was a nice little moment. So I think maybe that is also contributing to my enjoyment, which I think I mentioned last time, is that, some of the opinion and the language that's being used here I'm familiar with just from my past with learning Mandarin. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll give you my final updates whenever I get to the end of it. I don't know when that will be. This is taking me an age to read just because there's a bunch of stuff happening at the moment. So with beta reads and whatnot, I do need to start Dune if I'm going to have any chance of reading it prior to this podcast happening and not rush it. So I may have to switch gears for a little while, but regardless, because we're doing the vlog a bit differently, I'll just update you whenever I finish this. Hello, everybody. Sorry, we'll take two. Three? Question mark. I don't even know if you're on a fucking angle. Whatever. It's the end of the vlog, and I finished Iron Widow by Xiran Jay Zhao this morning. I have really mixed feelings about this one, and thank you, Faye, for talking to me about it briefly this afternoon. Because I wanted to love it more than I ended up loving it, but there are still things that I did like about the book that I don't know, it was really interesting because what I liked about it was I liked the themes. I think the themes are important and they were really in your face and you were beaten over the head with it. They were brutal. And I think that those themes certainly need to be spoken about. And I appreciate that this character was based on, very loosely, based on Empress Wu and the only female emperor that China has had. The other thing that I really liked was the you just saw a brain fart in real time. Anyway, the other thing that I really liked about this was I thought the elements that mashed up the genres were really cool. So there's an endorsement on the back of this that says Pacific Rim meets The Handmaid's Tale. And if you take the overt feminist themes of The Handmaid's Tale and the conversations that we're having about women and their role in society very loosely, because I think The Handmaid's Tale is an exquisite work of feminist fiction, whereas with this the themes kind of felt like whiplash, where we're told these themes overtly but then the actions of the character doesn't necessarily align with the things that she's saying, and I found that to be frustrating. I sort of went off on a tangent there with the themes. However, the elements of the genre mashup, so these huge robots in this fantasy setting and sort of the chi or the magic that they have in the system, and the way that that was coupled with like yin and yang and some of the Chinese ideologies was really, really cool. And I appreciated that for what something that felt super original. And when we got to the battles of these chrysalises, these giant robots, which are powered by one man and one woman, or one boy and one girl, I should say, because they only get to the age of 24, I think, before they have to start thinking about retirement, or they're just offed. The conversations that we're having about the different natures and the way that they intertwine, and does one necessarily need to have the other, and how much of one do we need of the other. Like, there were some themes of like gender and self-discovery and like all things that I generally like. My main issue with this is that whiplash notion that we're being told these overt things, we're being beaten over the head with it. Not a bad thing. I think the themes definitely need to be spoken about, but then the actions don't quite match. And it was an interesting one to try and come up with like a rating, because I don't know that I have one. I think if you ask me like just straight off the bat, I'd probably go around the 3-star range. I didn't hate it by any means. In fact, I think I liked it a lot more than other people have. And I'm interested in continuing on with the sequel, but the main character really did feel like whiplash the whole way through. So I don't know if I've given like any sort of synopsis about this book yet. I'm reading it for a book club that is happening here in Perth. We are following this young girl who has basically accepted her fate is to die. Let's go back. Hundreds and hundreds of years ago, the Hunduans basically demolished everything. And the people of this world who are trying to fight the Hunduans are fighting them through these giant robots called chrysalises. To power these chrysalises, we have a male pilot and a female pilot concubine who serves the male pilot. And they basically know that 9 times out of 10, they are going there to die. So some of them will sign up with the thought in their head that they'll be the 1 in 1,000 perfect match, where they'll actually match with the pilot and in terms of their power or their chi, and they can become a couple. It happens so rarely. Or they're sold by their family to serve men. which is where those heavy thematic conversations come in about gender inequality. Xiran is the author. Zetian, who is our protagonist, our main protagonist, is I think 17 or 18, don't quote me on that, a young girl, sort of coming of age. Her sister has died in this war as a concubine. Someone has taken her chief from her. She went into a fight, she never came out because they are so often drained as batteries to serve the men who are revered for being able to power these giant robots. She wants to get revenge for her sister, so she enlists with the understanding that she will die at the end of this fight, but she will do everything in her power to kill the man who killed her big sister. She realizes that she's more powerful than she initially thought, and by some miracle ends up surviving her first fight. Not a spoiler, it is on the back of the blurb. Spoiler, but it is on the back of the blurb. Anyway. And then a bigger plot ensues, and she goes, well, maybe I can do this. Maybe I can start to change the course of what's happening to young girls everywhere. I really like the premise. I really like the themes that we have here. I really like some of the mishmash of genres that we get in this book. The execution, though, didn't work as well as I wanted it to. That's pretty much as coherent as I'm going to get with this book. So that is the end of the vlog. Let me know if you prefer the vlogs where I'm actually talking about books just like from start to finish, because it did take, this one took way longer. It took like 2 weeks, maybe 2.5 to get 2 books where I've just sort of completed it, to share my thoughts. Or if you prefer more of the slice of life stuff where I'm just like showing you what's happening for about 10 days and I'm just sort of living my life. I did start a horrific blue bookshelf, which I think was a B-roll footage clip. It's going to look fucking awful, but I don't care. My wife and I are doing it together. If you are a perfectionist and you hate like half-done, mismatched furniture, probably don't look behind me. Because all of this shit is different colors. I'm a personality hire and I know that. That's fine. My craft project is going to be very bespoke. Anyway, if you like the vlog, give one of those. If you want to see more of it, click subscribe at your will and I will catch you in the next video. Ciao.